Okay, go ahead. Good evening. The July 27th, 2023 Whatcom County Planning Commission meeting is called to order. I'll call the roll. Please let me know if we're here. Elvin Barton, that's myself. Daniel Dahlquist,
Here.
Jewel Desmani. Jewel Desmani. Jim Hansen.
Here.
Stephen Jackson. Stephen Jackson. Julie Jefferson. Julie Jefferson. Kim Lund.
Here.
Dominic Masseri.
Here.
Scott Van Dalen. Scott Van Dalen. Okay. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What will come next is department update, but before the department update, we got Whatcom County planning got a memo that some of you probably saw, that it came in about 5:30, and that was to remind us that we're in election season, so we need to be careful what we say, that we're not endorsing anything or endorsing anybody. Or even promoting something. I think is what they were more concerned about. So just wanted to, I don't know if everybody saw it, but I wanted to make sure that we all got that and had that information. At any rate, so it is time for department update, and Cliff, are you doing the department update?
I am.
Okay, so this is Cliff Strong. He is the senior planner and he'll be doing the department update.
Yeah, Mark asked me just to mention two things. On Tuesday night, council adopted two ordinances that you guys have looked at and passed. One was the wind energy system amendments. That was a relatively recent one. But one was a really old one. It was an old vacation rental regulation that have been kicking around since 2014. And we actually broke it into two phases with what they adopted Tuesday night says where they can be and what type of permit one needs, but they haven't adopted the performance standard yet, because that comes along with the registration system, and I find a vendor that will provide that service for us. That's going to get council also wants to weigh in on what the fees are going to be for that. So I anticipate going back to them within 6 months or so. Okay, and then the request for proposals on the comprehensive plan was issued yesterday, and I understand we should have a consultant hired by the end of September. So right after that, we're going to start working on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, it's time for open session for public comment. Tammy, can you go ahead and take over?
Sure. So welcome to the meeting. This meeting is being broadcast live. The audio is being recorded and will be posted to the county website. As noted on our website, members of the public may watch the meeting or join online or by phone. During open public comment session, speakers may not speak to items scheduled on the agenda for public hearing tonight. We do not have a public hearing tonight. The other item, as mentioned by the chair, is that per RCW 42-17A-555, the use of public facilities to support or oppose candidates or ballot issues is prohibited. Members of the public and the commission are not allowed to speak in support of or opposition to a ballot measure or individual candidacy during open public meetings. So we do not have any online attendees at this time. We do have one speaker who's here to speak in person. So I'll have you, if you would, go up to the stand over here. And I'm going to just get a timer ready. You will have 3 minutes to speak. You can address your comments to the chair. And just be sure to speak clearly. Once I have the timer going, I'll just have you state your name and you'll be able to start. So just 1 moment, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Dick Malsbury. I've lived in Whatcom County since 1966. And I just caught on the Cascadian news that you guys are having a meeting about access to Cherry Point. And this is what I'm kind of a little concerned about. I have been from the 1960s. I go out there and walk. I've taken my sons out there and my grandkids out there, and we walk that beach. And I'm concerned about losing the accessibility of that. What's happened here, and I really appreciate what Whatcom County has done for that. They've maintained the roads out there. They've added gravel. They've put a sealer coat on that out there. They've kept it up. They've kept the roads trimmed back. They've kept access to it right along. And I really appreciate it. But I hate the thought of losing access to that, because it's my kind of like my little mecca. I enjoy my time out there, and I walk it. I walked it today. I usually walk it 2 or 3 times a week. The state of Washington and the federal government both have started fees and have been running these fees for access to their park, Larrabee Park. You got to pay a parking fee to get in there. Deception Pass, you got to pay a parking. If you want to go hiking in the woods, you got to have a trail permit. But Whatcom County is really pretty fortunate because we have access to that Cherry Point area. We have access to the Semiahmoo. Whatcom County Parks and Recreation has done just a great job in here in keeping the fees down and keeping the accessibility open. So I know I wrote a letter here. It's been probably a couple of years ago to the Planning Commission because they were thinking about barricading the roads out there due to the vandalism and the junk that was dumped out there. And I realize it's an issue. There's a certain minority of people here in Whatcom County that choose to use that area for a dump. And you know, if you need to stop those people from access to that, think about maybe putting a gate up there that's open in the daylight and closed at night. And the other thing that I'd like to say is that I'm really kind of sad that if this gets shut down due to the fact that people are abusing it, because there's such a minority of people, it seems like anymore, that are affecting the livelihood and the accessibility to these little treasures for the majority of people. You know, it seems like the minority of people are steering the majority around in not a good way. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other online attendees at this time? Let's see.
I don't see any.
But we do have a commissioner with his hand up.
Yeah. So it is time for commissioner comments, and Commissioner Hanson, I saw your hand up there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's in response to what the gentleman had to say. I'm certainly of a mind and feelings with him on this issue, and I know that it's nothing we can do anything about, because we help recommend broader policies on planning and development, regulations, et cetera, to county council. But I'm wondering, seems like some department of the executive has made that decision, apparently, and it might be useful to determine how that decision was made. I'm talking to you, sir, and perhaps appeal to the administrative people involved with it, and then I would suggest you might go to your county council member either your local one or the at-large and bring up this concern, because it's, like I said, I agree with you totally that we shouldn't let the few bad apples spoil our whole world. And I'm encouraging you to see that maybe you can do something about it.
The other commissioner comments? Seeing no other commissioner comments, move on to approval of minutes for the June 22nd, 2023 meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Dahlquist.
I will second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the June 22nd meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing as there are no additions or corrections, Candy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Jefferson,
Abstain.
Commissioner Lund,
Abstain.
Commissioner Masseri,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barton.
Yes.
That is 4 yeses with 2 abstaining, so that carries.
Right. So now it's time to move on to discussion and action on the docketed item regarding the provision of public access, the shoreline to Cherry Point, and senior planner Cliff Strong. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, it was last year, I think, that, council vacated that road that went down to Gulf Road that goes down to the beach there in Cherry Point. And shortly after that, you were probably involved in it. Sounds like a lot of people came unglued and the council reversed their decision on that. But then they put it on the docket because it was a hot topic at the time to review and if necessary revise county code and the comprehensive plan to protect, enhance, and expand public access to shoreline Cherry Point. The review should include but not be limited to planning to facilitate the development of the Coastal Millennium Trail, land swaps, development regulation, or mitigation allowances, easements, and land purchases. So there was a lot of things combined that not just in planning development services bailiwick, but also legal issues and parks and recreation issues. So I wasn't the sole author of this. Folks from those departments also helped out with it. In this white paper, I point out which parcels, council never really said which parcels. But I pointed out the ones that might be, because from Gulf Road, you can essentially walk down to Talco's beaches there, which I understand are more sandy. When you get right off of Cherry Point or off of Gulf Road, it's a very rocky beach. It's not a great place to lay out in the sun. And it turns out that all those beaches right there are actually owned, even into the tidelands, owned by Civic International Holdings. It's not till you get to the 3 properties over owned by Cherry Point Industrial Park, or even further than that, past Cherry Point Industrial Park, where the Talco property is, the tidelands are public. So that's kind of the outlook on the properties themselves. Royce Buckingham, or one of our prosecuting attorneys, wrote the part on the legal issues, and as he points out, we can't just make somebody give us property or anything like that, because that would be considered a taking. And so there's really only 2 ways to go about it. One's regulatory path. And I've gone through, council directed us to look at all of our policies and our comp plan and our code. And we are on firm footing with the requirements for providing public access. But that's only when somebody comes in and applies for a permit. Somebody, if Talco or whoever wanted to build more things out there, then we could require that. But it still has to be proportionate to their, in fact, they can't build a shed and we require 6 miles of trails. So I don't think there's anything PDS can do about it. I turned it over to our Parks Department, and their director wrote the part on first purchase of properties for easements and the stuff about the Coastal Millennial Trail. So theoretically, they could negotiate with the property owners to buy an easement or buy the property, make it as public access. But that Coastal Millennial Trail that the council references was never adopted as a final plan. The parks plan does reference it in several places, in some of the comp plan policies, reference it, but it was never adopted as a plan, and it was never funded. So really, the only way for council to provide legal public access down to that beach would be to fund purchasing it or wait for the properties to start developing, at which point then our regulations, planning and development services regulation, we could do something about it. So in the meanwhile, I think council's either gonna have to pony up, or right now it's theoretically, once you leave that asphalt of the road, it's illegal for you to walk down there. And you know, the property owners haven't done anything about it because they acknowledge that it's been used for so long, but they're not trying to stir things up. So really, our recommendation is that council remove this item from the docket and take no action. Although if they want to follow up with funding easement, purchase of easements or something like that, that would be up to them.
Hey, thank you. And for the record, Commissioner Jefferson is here, and she has been here for some time. I didn't announce it when she first showed up. Commissioner Hanson.
Pardon if I've got things off track, but how does this relate to any impact we might have on someone, on a private citizen's ability to go walk on the beach there?
Well, legally, anybody can walk on the tideland, so below mean high water mark, if it's not owned, if the tidelands aren't owned. And in Washington, most of the tidelands aren't privately owned, but there are some parcels that were created prior to the State Subdivision Act coming in, prior to the Shoreline Management Act. So back in the 1800s, they were sold off, and that seems to be the case with the parcels right when you come down off Gulf Road there that are.
So they're private property and they don't want public on them. Is that the issue?
Said that, yeah.
Oh,
But it's up to them. It's a civil matter, so it's up to them if they want to do something. I seriously doubt they're going to stir their hornets and stuff. Though.
okay. Thanks.
So with nothing else, I guess I'd like a recommendation from the planning commission. If you agree with this, I can pass it on to council.
Just pausing a little bit longer here.
Or is that your cursor?
Is that a cursor?
Oh, that's a cursor. I thought you were raising your hand.
Sorry.
Commissioner Lund, we had, well, you could probably see it, a white hand sitting in front of your tile,
Sorry about that.
but it wasn't a hand raise. Are there any more comments or questions from the commissioners? And then another question would be, commissioners, you can take one of a couple. I think of 3 choices. Just you can recommend it be removed, you can decline to recommend anything, or you can recommend it not be removed. There's probably something else and I am not the legal expert on it.
Adjourn and go home.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept staff's recommendation that council remove PLN 2022-00005 from the docket with no action taken.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Are there any comments, discussions? Or questions for Quinn? Seeing that there are no corrections, additions, comments. Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mosseri,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jefferson,
yes,
Commissioner Barton.
Yes.
That is 6 yeses, that carries.
So, especially for you, that doesn't mean that the council can't put monies towards it or go into a process, through Parks and Recreation to try to do something, but folks would have to convince them that that's where we need to spend money as opposed to other places, I guess. But my guess is if we just let this thing drop, nothing's gonna change out there for a long time.
Yeah, the isolation of that is part of it being a special. place.
Yeah, it is a lovely spot.
And, over the years, I've probably packed 500 or 600 pounds of trash out of there.
All right, so we are at the last part of the meeting and that would be unfinished business. We have nothing here. Is there anybody have unfinished business or other business to bring up?
Oh, I did forget to mention, there's no meetings in August.
No. Okay,
You can all have it off without pay.
no meetings in August.
Boy, you guys really need to get those staff on board so you can make more work for us.
We're down to only needing 2 more staff to be fully staffed.
Oh, good. This is just the calm before the storm, so we might as well enjoy it.
Have a nice summer.
Yeah, you're working Christmas. But being as there are no additional business or people have new business to bring up, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good evening.
See you in September. Whoa.